Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Today it's Fountain Show Pen Day. We're going to take a look at two pens from Lamy. And now I have also heard it pronounced Lamy. I'm not sure which is the correct pronunciation. But the two pens we're going to look at, the first one is this. This is the Lamy Safari, and this is in the charcoal colour. Really nice light pen. Going up against that, I've got this. This is the Lamy AL-Star, and this is in deep purple. I've got to be honest, I'm jumping ahead. I love the colour of this pen. Now you may ask yourself, why have I chosen these pens? Well, they're virtually the same shape, so I thought it would be a good comparison. So join me now, down on the mat. We'll take a look at the pens, we'll do some measurements, some weights, a writing sample. I'll give you my thoughts on the pens, and then give them a ranking. So here we are down on the mat, time to jump in and look at the pens. So the first pen we're going to look at today is this one. This is a Lamy Safari. The second pen, the Lamy AL-Star or AL-Star. Don't they look similar? Big difference, the Safari is plastic, the AL-Star is aluminium. That, as far as I can tell, is really the only major difference. There are some little tiny ones, but we'll look at those as we go through. Because they're so similar, we'll just look through the body of the AL-Star and I'll point out any differences. So we start at the top and we've got this here. This is in plastic and that's got a cross. It's the same on the Safari. Now, I was talking to someone on YouTube comments and they did say that this here is what indicates that it's a fountain pen and different pens have different shapes. We come down and we come into the cap. The cap, it's a single width all the way down. The AL-Star has got this silver clip, which is nice and springy. The Safari, it's black, but again, similarly nice and springy. The cap comes down and we've got a slight drop off, same on both of them, until we come into the body. The body, we've got a flat part, curved, flat again, and then curved. Same on the Safari. And on each of those, we've got a little ink window, so we can get an idea of how much ink is in our converters. We come on the way down. It's the same width all the way down. And then both of them, they've got a flat bottom. Slight difference. The bottom on the AL-Star, it's got a little divot in it, whereas it's all flat on the Safari. So really, in terms of the initial looks, very, very similar. I do like the colours of these though. When I saw this AL-Star, this colour, it just jumped out at me. There was quite a few different colours, but this is one really attracted my eye. And I've got to be honest, it was the similar with the Safari. I was looking at the 2021 special editions because there's a green one, but when I saw this charcoal colour, I'm afraid that's what I jumped for. The caps pull off. So let's take both caps off. And that reveals these gorgeous nibs. Now the AL-Star, I've got a 1.5 stub in there. The Safari, I've got a broad. I like the fact that the nib on the Safari is this black colour, which goes really well with the rest of the pen. It's a silver coloured one on here. It's a silver coloured one on the AL-Star. Doesn't really bother me because, again, it looks fine with the rest of the body. If we look at the sections, on the Safari, it matches with the colour of the body. You can actually see the shape here better. So it's a bit like a triangular shape. So we've got two flat sides, then we've got a round on the bottom. I like this because it guides your fingers down towards the bottom, and that's where I normally hold my pens anyway. When I first looked at this, I thought that's going to be really horrible to use. But I've got to be honest, it's so nice and so easy on the hands. I really enjoy using it. With the AL-Star, well, this is a plastic section, but it's transparent, so you can actually see there into the actual mechanism, which again, I find really interesting, but I never look at it, but it's nice to have. Let's take off the bodies. So as we can see, these are both converters. The Safari, when I bought it, did not come with a converter, but the AL-Star did. I did buy them from different shops though, so that could explain it. But to me, that was one of the weaknesses, is the fact you have to buy that converter extra. We pop this back together. Let's talk about cost. The Safari, that cost me 37 Australian dollars. The AL-Star, 75 Australian dollars. So double the price to get that aluminium one. Let's get these out of the way and do some measurements. We'll start with the Safari. 13.9 centimetres. The AL-Star, 13.9 centimetres. Uncapped, 12.8 centimetres. The AL-Star slightly longer at 12.9. Posted, 16.4 centimetres. The AL-Star, 17 centimetres. This is the big difference between the two pens. The AL-Star posts an awful lot longer. And when I was doing my script for this, I measured these about 4 times because I was sure I must have made a mistake somewhere. But each time it came out the same. So the AL-Star posted is longer. Width of the body. This one actually surprised me. Let me pop them both next to each other. This again is where there's a difference between the two. The body is, with the Safari, is 1.22 centimetres wide. With the AL-Star is 1.28 centimetres wide. The AL-Star is 1.28 centimetres wide. So the AL-Star slightly wider. If we look at the caps, again I'm just going to pop them next to each other there. The width of the cap for the Safari is 1.4 centimetres, whereas for the AL-Star 1.55 centimetres. Same with the sections. The width of the section on the Safari goes from 0.99 up to 1.19 centimetres. On the AL-Star, it goes from 1 up to 1.22. So only very, very minute amounts, but there is a difference between the two of them. And it's worth bearing in mind if you're going to buy them. We pop these back together, and I'll fetch in my trusty scales of measurement. So with the Safari. The Safari weighs in at 18 grams. The cap, 8 grams. AL-Star, 22 grams, so 4 grams difference. The cap, 10 grams. So again, slightly heavier. Would you notice it? Not sure. Let's clear this off. We'll fetch in the paper. So this paper is by Black & Red. Key thing is it uses the Oxford optic paper, which is a really nice fountain pen friendly paper. So the first one we're going to take a look at is going to be the Safari. In here I've got Pure Pens John Frost. It's the first time I've had this ink in a pen. It's got this really nice, I'm going to say green, maybe potentially tealy back colour to it. Really nice. But let me just move that around slightly. I don't know if it'll really show up. It's got this gorgeous red sheen to it. Can you see that coming through? Hopefully it's showing up on the camera. Get that out of the way, and let's do a writing sample. So as you can see, I use this unposted. It's plenty long enough. So here we have a Lamy Safari with a broad nib. The ink, as I say, Pure Pens John Frost. So this ink, although it's sold by Pure Pens, it's made for them by Diamine, and it's part of Pure Pens' Chartist series of inks. Let's look at our drying times. Immediate. It's wet. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. 20 seconds. Doesn't seem to be getting much drier, does it? 30 seconds. 1 minute. Well, it is starting to dry a little bit, but look how wet it is. I'm going to do another one. I'm going to leave it for 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, well, we're still getting a slight smudge coming off it. So to me, this certainly isn't a combo that I'm going to be using when I'm doing long form notes. It's just so wet. You'll never be able to get anywhere if you're having to wait more than 2 minutes between pages. You'll soon get bored of that, won't you? We'll do our writing sample. I'll just reposition my mic. And whilst I've got the cap off, let's test for line variation. So that was light, and there it's with some pressure. So again, steel nib. You can get some line variation. It's not really designed for that though, is it? Let's take a look, see if this has dried any. So we're looking at the top here where we've got Lamy Safari and the name of the ink. Just look at the sheen coming off that. Hopefully it comes over on the camera. As the rest of this will dry, I'm assuming it's going to develop that same gorgeous green with that red sheen, which really adds interest to your writing. As I say, unfortunately, I don't really think this is a note-taking ink. Now, with the Lamy Safari, I will be honest with you. When I first got this pen, I absolutely hated it. It was so dry. It was just unpleasant to use. What I found is I need wetter inks in here, which is what I've got here, as we can see. Really wet combo. I really like this combo. I really like writing with this pen, with this ink in it. It's not just the gorgeous colouring you're getting through. As we can see here where we did the writing sample, you've got loads of different sheening, you've got loads of different shading. Really is a pleasure to write with. There's some feedback there. It's nice. It's not unpleasant. When you've got a drier ink in there, it's just so horrible. It's like you're dragging the nib across the page. Here, you can feel it writing. You can feel the texture of the paper, but it's not unpleasant. It's actually quite nice. So certainly this is a pen of the last 6 months or so. I've really changed my thoughts on it because I've got the right inks in it now. Let's test the other pen out. Let's reposition the paper. So here we are with the AL-Star. So let's do some writing. So Lamy AL-Star, AL-Star. It's got a 1.5 stub nib. The ink in here, it's again actually made by Diamine, but it's labelled Cult Pens and it's called Little Bob. Absolutely love this. Again, what we've got, I can never make my mind up whether this is a crimson background with brown sheen or the other way around. Doesn't really matter, it still looks nice. Really enjoying this ink. Again, this is the first time I've had this ink in the pen and it really suits this 1.5 nib. So the ink, Cult Pens, Little Bob. You should be able to see here, this is why I deliberately wrote this first line. That's gone very brown, whereas the fresh ink is more of this crimson-y colour, but it very quickly dries and it takes on this brown characteristic. I think it looks really nice. Drying times, so we got immediate, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute, wow, still wet after a minute. So once again, we're going to go for 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, this is still fairly wet. Now, let's be honest, it's a 1.5 nib. I'm not going to be writing notes with it. What I will be doing though is using it for headers and subheadings. So I've got to be aware if I'm using it for taking notes, I've got to leave plenty of time before turning pages. So it's like everything. It's not a problem as long as you're aware with it and you can take steps to work around it. Let's do our writing sample. I'm going to move the mic close to the page. Whilst the cap's off, line variation. Well, obviously we're going down, it's a wide nib. With a bit more pressure, don't really actually get much of a difference. Going across, again with a bit more pressure. Let's do some S's. I know it's a bit pointless because we know it's a stub nib. So we know we're going to get this gorgeous variation in the line, and I think it looks really nice when I'm writing. I really do enjoy this stub nib. It's nice, it's got that real interest, but it's not an everyday writing pen. It's not a note-taking pen. It's more of those headlines, as I said, the headers, the things where you want that little bit more interest. I think this is going to be really nice for writing Christmas cards because you can use it to get a really interesting message when you're writing it down. So that's what I'm looking forward to. In fact, I even like this colour for it because, you know, as we can see, the base is this gorgeous red. But then we've got this, it's like a brown, but it's like a goldy brown coming out as it dries. It looks so nice on paper. Let me clear this off and then we'll give some ratings. So we'll start with pen looks. The Safari, I love this colour. I love the grey colour. The Safari, same with the AL-Star, there's lots of different colours you can get. And that's one of the benefits of this. You can have different colours. You can have virtually a whole rainbow of colours of each of these pens. It does look a little bit dull because of the way it's got the finish on it. And that does detract a little tiny bit, not enough to really cause an issue. But for giving scores, I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. The AL-Star. I just love this colour. Just look at that as I turn it around slowly there. It's called dark purple. To me, it's not purple. It's more of a reddy side of the purple scale, but I really like it. I like the smooth finish to it. It looks so nice. It looks as if it's been properly finished, whereas the Safari still looks a little bit on the rough side. So in terms of pen looks, I'm going to give that a 9 out of 10. Writing experience and ink flow. Just going to fetch in here, this is Tomoe River paper, and here we have the Lamy Safari with that John Frost. You know, on this 52 GSM paper, just look at that sheen coming through on there. That's absolutely gorgeous. You can really see it on there where you couldn't see it as well on the optic paper. Absolutely love this. It's green anyway. I love green. I've had no problems with hard starts, skipping, anything. The problem is it's just too wet. You know, it's not something you could write pages and pages in a go. But for writing those shorter bits, I think this is gorgeous. It looks so nice. So in terms of writing experience, does still feel a little bit on the dry side. I think that's the nib. Hopefully I can work on that over time. As I say, 6 months ago, I absolutely hated this pen. You would never have been able to convince me that I'd say anything nice about it. It was just, I felt it was horrible. Now it's a pen that I enjoy using. So writing experience, 8 out of 10. Ink flow, as I say, no issues, really wet. You can see here, I'd accidentally smudged it. 9 out of 10 for that, definitely. Let's look at the AL-Star. Let me just find the right page. So with the AL-Star, here we go. The writing's definitely bigger. You know, we expect that. So it's Lamy AL-Star. I've got to be honest, on this paper, there's more of the red showing through, not as much of that brown or gold coloured sheen. Really nice there. I love it because it's different, you know, and I love the way that the brown really complements the red. Again, no issues with writing with it. I love the fact we're getting all this line variation. That to me makes it a really attractive writing implement. I love the sheen coming through. Again, it's all about adding character and interest to my writing. So in terms of writing experience here, 9 out of 10. Similarly, not had any issues with skips, with hard starts, anything like that. It's another really, really wet combo. So ink flow, 9 out of 10. So now the all-important question. Let's just turn these around. There we go. Get them to sit properly. Value for money. This to me, this is always a hard one because what's value for money to me might not be for somebody else. It's really hard to give a really objective value on this. It's something which is very subjective. When I look at the Safari, I have to take into mind all the issues I had with it earlier on, how it made me feel, how the writing experience was. As I've already said, get the right ink in it, it's gorgeous. Now I've got the right ink in, really enjoying it. But I've got to bear in mind that I also not 100% happy with the way it looks. You know, it looks slightly unfinished, as if they can't be bothered to smooth off the plastic. So value for money, I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. The AL-Star, double the cost of the Safari for what is virtually the same pen. The only big difference, the AL-Star is made of aluminium. But when I look at this, it's got this lovely finish to it. It looks like it's been properly finished off. I love the writing experience. One of the things I may try in the future is swapping the nibs over because it's the same nib family. They can just swap between them. Still enjoyed it. I've got to bear in mind it's twice the price of the Safari, but to me, it looks twice the pen. So again, this, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. So that means the total scores for these pens, for the Lamy Safari, that's 8.25 out of 10. The Lamy AL-Star, 8.75 out of 10. My biggest takeaway from this video is what a difference the nib makes, because we've got a broad, we've got a 1.5, and that changes the writing experience so much. I couldn't really believe it at first. I love picking up the AL-Star. The Safari, although it's nicer, I've still got a lot of pens I would prefer to pick up over this. Whereas the AL-Star, if I'm just sat at my desk and want to write a quick note, that's the one I generally reach for. So definitely it's the nib which makes the difference. And as I've said, I want to do that experiment where I swap the nibs, see if I feel the same way. Is it the nib? Is it the aluminium? Is it the plastic? So this is my showdown between the Lamy Safari in charcoal and the Lamy AL-Star in dark purple. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. What are your thoughts on these pens? How about the pronunciation? Is it A, Lamy, or B, Lamy? I'd love to know. Please drop a comment down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Hit that thumbs up button every time you like one of my videos, every time you comment on one. It just helps to drive the YouTube algorithm so other people can get to see my content. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.